Hello and welcome back. The very first video I uploaded to this channel, and that was a few years back now, was a step-by-step tutorial on how to scan sheet music. Back then I used a flatbed scanner and a PC laptop. That video is still very popular, and over on my website my post on music scanning software and apps is one of the most viewed pages on my site. I have updated the post numerous times over the years to include apps and newer software, but a new video tutorial has long been overdue. So in this video I'm going to look in detail at an app called Playscore, which you can install on any Android or iOS mobile device and capture sheet music with your camera. However, that is not all. There are several ways you can import sheet music into the app and multiple things you can do with it. You can play the sheet music back, you can transpose it, you can create rehearsal files for individual voices or instruments, you can accompany yourself, and you can export the music in several formats. Playscore is available in 3 versions. I'll take you through all the features of the full professional version, which costs $22.49 a year. That's pounds, euros or dollars depending where you are. So if you already have Playscore, then this video is a step-by-step tutorial to all the features. If you don't have it yet, then you can get a good look at what the app can do and decide if it is for you. I post regular videos on home recording made easy, especially aimed towards beginners. So if that sounds like you, then do subscribe. Click the bell if you want to be the first to know when I have uploaded new content. And if you like the video, please share the love. It really helps the channel out. And if you have any comments or questions, post them below. I do love to read them. Let's crack on and have a look at the Playscore app. Let's start by having a look at the simplest operation you can do with Playscore. When you open it up, you'll find yourself in the document view. I've already created a few documents. You simply click the camera icon and the camera is switched on and you're ready to photograph a score straight away. In this case, I'm photographing a score with 3 staves, violin and piano parts. The processing is very quick, and once it's processed, it starts playing back. Now, unfortunately, my screen recording software on my iPad does add a few clicks. These are not audible in the actual app, but here's a quick demo. Couple of points. The default sound when it's finished processing is always the piano for every stave, and the professional version can handle multiple staves. To adjust the tempo, you simply move the slider at the bottom of the screen and it instantly speeds up or slows down. Did you notice it played back the trill that is marked in the score? So Playscore can handle articulation written into the various parts. We'll come back to that later. You can keep adding pages to the document, and if at any point you're not happy with the page that you've captured, you can simply swipe across the screen and either recapture or delete. If I tap this symbol in the bottom left-hand corner, I can enter the staff view, and in that view I can adjust the instrument sound for each individual stave. I can also adjust the volume of each stave, and I can transpose up and down by a number of semitones. So it's really easy to adjust the key of a piece and also to change the sound of it. As this is a piece containing a violin, I have briefly selected the violin voice so that you can hear it. As you can hear, it sounds pretty dire, so I wouldn't use any of the string voices in this. You do have a limited palette of voices, but for many arrangements, the woodwind is much more acceptable. And for vocal and string parts, you can get an acceptable overview of what the score sounds like, but without offending your ears too much. Once you've got an overview of what the whole piece sounds like, one of the really nice things you can do is create a piano accompaniment for yourself. So all I need to do is completely turn down the volume of the instrument part, and then I can just hear the piano part. This is ideal if I want to create a file that I can quickly play along with. Notice also that you can choose to play back repeats. So this is useful if you want to create a complete performance of a piece of sheet music. If I wanted to loop a section for practice purposes, then all I need to do is press down on the first bar, drag along until I've got the section that I want to turn into a loop, let go, and you can then play that section repeatedly. And obviously you can adjust the tempo up or down if you need to. You press the gear icon to access the settings for the document, and there you can enter a title for the piece and the composer. You can adjust how wide you want the dynamic range to be in the playback, whether you want a big dynamic range or none. I've got it on the widest. You can choose whether or not to play the repeats in the score. You can select auto transposition if you have got instruments in the score that are transposing instruments. The staff voices I'll come back to later because that's a very specific case. You can choose whether the playback should have a swing feel to it, and then you have got error correction, which I leave on, but if you find the score has got inaccuracies in it, turning that off could make a difference. So that's worth playing with if you've got a problem. Obviously, if you find one of the pages just hasn't worked, you can simply rephotograph it. You can tidy things up by clicking the crop icon, and then you can crop the pages that you photographed, and you can also add a mask to hide areas of the score that you don't want to be too obtrusive. Then you can access the document view to rearrange the pages in your score, and if you want to remove any of the pages at this point, you can just simply swipe up and delete them. You can always click the question mark at the bottom of the page to access the help pointers. As an alternative to photographing scores from within the app, you can photograph them all in advance and just import the photos. The processing after that point is exactly the same. If I go back to the documents view, then I can rearrange the documents by title, by the most recent, or by composer. Now, one of the really cool things you can do with Playscore is you can actually share documents. So now I have got this piano accompaniment for this sheet music all set up. I can simply tap the sharing icon and either choose to save the Playscore document locally, or I can send it straight via email from within the app to, say, for example, a pupil who could receive the piano accompaniment and could use it for practice purposes for any pieces they were learning. Now, to see how that looks as a recipient, I have got the app installed on my Android phone, and I have just got the free version. So all I need to do on my Android phone is pick up my email, click on the attachment, and it opens up Playscore immediately, and then I have access to the piano part that my teacher has made for me. Now that document is locked, so I can't adjust the voices or anything like that or transpose it. But what I can do is I can play back, I can adjust the tempo, and I can still loop sections if I've got particular sections I want to practice. So that is a really useful feature and a brilliant aid for teachers. Now, what we've looked at so far is fairly simple, so let's max it out and try something more complicated. So I have got a score here, which is part of the Handel Messiah, and this page has got 4 vocal parts plus a trumpet and a keyboard part. So if I photograph it and you look how quickly it can process, this is in real time, and play back. It's quite impressive. And all I need to do then is go into the staff settings to adjust the voices. So what I'll do here is use woodwind sounds for the vocal parts. A nice setup is flute, oboe, clarinet and bassoon. They seem to work quite well. I've then got the trumpet part, so I'll use the trumpet, and then the keyboard part I will put to organ. Just turn that down a bit because obviously that's quite a loud voice. And let's hear a sample of that playback. Now, I could keep adding pages to this score as you saw before, but we've already seen that. Now, one of the things I could do if I had a score like this is I could actually create a rehearsal file for one of the vocal parts. A good way to do this is to set all the staves to the piano voice and bring the volume right down so they're just there as background, and then set the vocal part that you're interested in this case the alto, to oboe, and keep the volume of that stave up. And then if you play it back, you see you've got a rehearsal part for the alto. Of course, you could do that for any of the voices. Now, if I was an alto in a choir, this would be a really useful way of creating myself a rehearsal file to hear how my part sounded. Or if I was running a choir, I could quickly create rehearsal parts for all the sections and then email them out from within the app. So I think that is a really useful function, pretty accurate, very quick. So far, I've been looking at photographing my own scores, but there are big public domain libraries online of existing out of copyright scores. So, for example, IMSLP or IMSLIP or the International Music Score Library Project has a very big source of PDF scores, and you can import them directly into Playscore if you have this professional edition. So once you have found a score that you want to try out, you simply, from within the browser on your mobile device, find Playscore and you can open it up directly within the app. When you import a PDF like this and Playscore has opened up, you'll find yourself on a document screen like this. You can choose the first page to import and the last page. Simply tap above the page 1 and below the final page that you wish to import, and then it will import those pages straight into the app. And then you can use the score exactly as I've shown you already. Notice there is now an extra slider on the import screen to adjust PDF process quality, and by playing with this you can adjust the import and you might get better results on better or faster. You just have to experiment a bit. Again, once you've imported, you can choose to crop and mask accordingly, and then it's simply a matter of playing it back and adjusting the voices and so on. You can share scores with other people via email. From within the email, you can open up the score straight into Playscore, and you can, if you have the professional version, have access to all the functionality of adjusting the staves and so on. This particular score highlights how good the articulation can be when you're playing back a successfully imported score. I said I'd come back to the staff voices setting in the app settings. Now, what I've done here is I've found a barbershop site and I've found an arrangement for barbershop quartet. These are written so 2 voices appear on one stave and 2 voices appear on the other. Now, if I can import that straight into Playscore as before, it's a PDF. And once I've done that, if I have a look at the staff settings for this piece, you'll see that I can only adjust the volume for each stave completely. Now, I might want to bring out just one of the voices, and so to do that, I go into the settings and I adjust the staff voices to 2. Then when I go back to the staff settings, I can actually individually adjust the volume of each voice. Now, this will be very useful if I just want to create a rehearsal score for one of the voices. There are a couple more export options from the Playscore app. Obviously, we've already looked at how you can save a Playscore file ready to be opened up by other people from within their Playscore apps. Or what you can do is you can export MIDI And if you save it as a MIDI file, then you can open it up in any MIDI software. And finally, something really useful, you can save the document as a music XML document. And then you can open it up in any notation software that will read music XML. So Finale, Sibelius, all the big notation players. And in this case, I'm using MuseScore, which is a piece of software you can use for free. But if you want to import music XML, you have to pay a few pounds a year. And then you can import music XML, and then you are ready to edit the score further. Maybe you want to adjust the parts, add more parts, do other kinds of arranging. You can do that within the notation software once you have imported the music XML. So this really is very versatile. Finally, if we compare the 3 different versions of Playscore you can get, on my Android phone I only have the free version, and if I try to photograph a score with more than 2 staves, then it tells me that I can't do that. So with the free version, as you've seen, you can open up Playscore documents, you can play them back, you can change the tempo, and you can loop sections. You can also create your own Playscore documents, but they can only have 1 or 2 staves, and you can only create single page documents. The productivity version lets you create multi-staff, multi-page scores with your camera or importing images, and you can also export those. You can also interact with the scores, change the instruments and so on, and export MIDI files, but you can't import PDFs or export music XML. In most of this video, I have been demonstrating the professional version, and so everything you have seen me do, you can do with that subscription. So you can export MIDI, you can export music XML, and you can import PDFs as well. So overall, I think this is an excellent app if you want to quickly hear how a piece of music sounds, or if you want to create a quick accompaniment file. It's also a super quick process to create rehearsal parts for choral music and the like, and to share them. It's not very expensive, and it does mean you don't have to invest in very expensive notation software and scanning programs. It works really well alongside MuseScore. The playback is pretty good, but obviously it only has a limited palette of voices, some of which are pretty unusable, and it doesn't have any facility to edit within the app, which you might find a bit frustrating. It can take a few goes to get a good photograph, but in general it's a really useful app, and with the ability to import PDFs and export MIDI and music XML for further editing, I would definitely recommend it as a good alternative to some of the much more expensive options. At the moment, the app does not handle guitar chords or lyrics, but I believe these are features that are in the pipeline, so hopefully they'll be along soon. Well, I hope you found that helpful. Any comments or questions, post them below. If you have enjoyed this video, do give it a thumbs up, that really helps me out. And please do subscribe to the channel if you want to get more of my home recording studio tutorials and reviews. Thanks for watching. I will see you next time.